Hey, what's up, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane Podcast, episode 116 today, to talk about some F1 news ahead of the Spanish GP and also previewing that upcoming Grand Prix for the 2019 season. Back with you as your host, myself, Aarav, Callum, and Tom. I'm going to start off the topic of the day of tracks. I think it's a lot of track talk, really, honestly, in this episode, because the Italian GP has been officially renewed, which I guess is very good news, because it's one of the more established tracks, you know, one of those kind of, heritage circuits, I guess you could kind of say, for F1, those ones where a lot of fans would be very upset if it got removed ever, I think. So good news, guys, I guess.
Yeah, especially coming off the back of last year where we had probably one of the best Italian Grand Prix in years, almost a decade, I'd say. It's always usually been a ball fest, but last year was quite solid. And the fact that Ferrari have made a bit more of a resurgence to come to the front of the field in recent years is positive, and I'm glad it's staying on the calendar.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's just one of them tracks, you know, the historical value, it just keeps F1 grounded in a way. You kind of need those races where F1 was born in a way, like Monaco, Silverstone, Monza, Spa. Those kind of races are the true pillars of F1, and it just keeps the tradition. And ultimately, like we said, the atmosphere last year was probably one of the craziest ones I've seen. Like when Kimi got pole. So it's good to keep that. I think it's really good for everyone.
Yeah, it was mega, and hopefully, you know, that Grand Prix specifically can get better and better, because, you know, with the rules maybe going towards less, you know, trying to get rid of that dirty air kind of effect, making slipstream more powerful and whatnot, and, you know, hopefully, you know, encouraging overtaking. Monza, surely, in theory, could only get better, basically, in terms of that. And obviously, in terms of the hype levels, yeah, it was really hyped up because of Kimi, and I guess now, I don't know, I feel like a lot of Ferrari fans have really got behind Leclerc, so I think the hype will be there equally so, rocking up this year and for years to come for the Ferrari fans. I guess you can only talk about Ferrari fans when you go to Monza. There's other fans, but they get drowned out pretty much. But obviously,
you see the odd flag of like a Hamilton flag, but you're like, why? You just look so out of place.
You look at them as like, at least you tried, mate. At least you tried. Like, you're there.
A for effort.
Yeah, A for effort. So yeah, the good news there that Monza is renewed. Obviously, ongoing talks with, you know, a lot of different circuits, I guess, you know, because there's a lot of legacy contracts from the Eccleston era that I guess are going to come towards an end very soon with, and Liberty Media are going to have to try and organise that. So at least it's good to know that Liberty Media nailed that one down. They didn't kind of get into an issue, because there were kind of speculations before of, like, you know, all these kind of tracks where, you know, biting back at Liberty Media, because they had that thing a few months ago, I thought a few weeks ago maybe, where didn't like advertising agency come together like with all these organisers and say that they didn't exactly like the way Liberty Media were doing certain things, and they kind of bit back at them a little bit. So that kind of got me at the time a little bit worried. I don't know about you two. A little bit worried about.
It's better than the Eccleston era, though.
Yes,
where,
for sure.
Obviously, that stupid contract that Silverstone signed, and that's one of the heritage tracks that is still very much up in the air. With the fact, because a load of fake news came out earlier this week, actually, about Silverstone apparently re-signing the contract. They haven't. Which is, and I really, something needs to be signed on some dotted line sometime soon, because Silverstone dropping off the calendar would be probably the worst. And especially, like we talk about Italy and Monza and the crowds it pulls in, I'm pretty sure Silverstone pulls the biggest crowd of the year, I want to say. It's got to be at least top 3 or top 5. Like, picking off the top of my head, I know Austin brings in a lot. Spain is usually quite popular as well. But yeah, Silverstone dropping off the calendar would be stupid. But it also links into other news about the Spanish Grand Prix, and the fact that is apparently going to be replaced by a certain Dutch track, which would make a lot of sense regarding fans-wise. But Zandvoort, the very narrow... It's a track that I don't have that much knowledge of. I've only really raced it on iRacing, but what's the general thought of Zandvoort between you two?
I'm not too sure about this one, to be honest. I saw some virtual hot laps, and I've also raced Zandvoort as well, like you, Cal, on iRacing, and I remember taking an F1 car. I took the McLaren MP430 in the which is the 2015 McLaren, and I took it around the iRacing sim, around the circuit. It's a good track for hot lapping, but even then, you barely hit 7th gear. It's like, you're not going to hit 8th, maybe on the pit straight, but even then, it's a very short, narrow track. It's too fast for these current F1 cars. If it was like the 2014 cars, then yeah, probably it'd be a good race with the narrower cars, the slower cars. But with these current, you know, beasts, I can't see it. Like, you're going to struggle to go too wide through most corners. And yeah, I've always said this before. Even in Holland, there's not really a great selection of tracks for F1. But if you were going to any track, you'd go to Assen because Assen is a much more well-rounded circuit. It's still quite narrow, but that is a much better track, for infrastructure. Zandvoort needs a lot of work. It's an extremely bumpy track, and it's showing its age because it doesn't really have that many races there. So for me, Assen would be a much better option. I think it would work a lot better. The racing would be great. There's a lot of good straights on Assen to really, provide overtaking. So for me, the fact it's at the expense of Spain is I don't know what to say, because we don't really have, I think Carl saw you tweeting about this earlier on this week. We don't really have classics at Spain, but it has become a bit of a pillar of F1 in a way.
Well, when did it come onto the calendar?
1994, I think.
Okay, so it's not, because people were comparing it, because this is the thing that I was talking on Twitter, people were comparing it to the likes of Spa and Silverstone and Monaco. No, it doesn't have the heritage like that. Okay, we race there a lot and we test there a lot, but that's the problem with Spain. The teams know too much. We have a good Grand Prix when the teams know as little as possible, and that's the problem with Spain. And I think I'm all in favour of Spain dropping off the calendar because it hasn't produced, and classics don't count. Like 2016 doesn't class as a classic just because the two Mercedes crashed each other out and we had the youngest ever race winner. It was actually still quite a dreadful race. There was no overtake for the lead. Yeah. And again, 2012, Maldonado, okay, they overtook in the pit lane. On pit strategy, that was it. It was a good race between those two, but I don't really remember. There was Hamilton coming through the field and Schumacher rear-ending Senna. That's all I can remember from that race.
Spain for me, it's better when the tyre wear is there, like 2012 and 2013, when you have some strategy plays. But obviously now in the modern era with the Pirelli tyres the way they are, you're just not going to get that many pit stops and very different strategies anymore at Spain unless they change the tyres back to the way they used to be. So I don't see Spain shucking up at all-time classic anytime soon. So I'm not too sad about it. I do kind of have a kind of obviously it's been around since the entire time I've watched F1. So for me, it seems like a bit of a staple on the calendar. We test there so much as well. So it would be a little bit of a shame. But at the same time, I think you quickly not miss it in a way, just because, it has not thrown up too many classics. About the whole Zandvoort situation, I think I'm pretty much just echo Tom in terms of I think Assen, just even PR-wise, would be a lot better, I think, just to go to Assen as a name brand as well. I think maybe that plays into it, though. I think maybe the Zandvoort organisers, I don't know, with the rumours coming out, we don't know how concrete the rumours are, but maybe the organisers over there want to have F1 come there so that they can almost invest in the circuit to make it get back up to scratch, fix those bumps, tot up the circuit basically, make it become once again, what it was maybe when it was brand spanking new, to maybe attract other series as well at the same time over the year, as well as F1. Maybe, speaking from a business perspective, I think that's maybe why the organisers are very keen to try and attract F1 there. But obviously, should F1 go there is another question. And yeah, like I said, I think Assen would be looks like a much better place to go.
The movement to go to older tracks, and this is something again that a little bit of speculation was brought up when Jean Todt, I think literally today as we record it on the 4th of May, May the 4th would be with you, I've just literally realised. Jean Todt was in South Africa at, I can't remember the name of the circuit, it slipped my mind, but it's an old circuit that used to be on the calendar, and he had a picture there, and that sparked a few rumours about potentially returning to South Africa. That's very, very speculative, unlike Zandvoort, which is a bit more, slightly more concrete, still setting.
It's a circuit Kyalami.
Yes, I think that's it. Which again, I do like the movement of going to more older circuits rather than constantly creating new ones, because obviously in more recent years the new circuits haven't been the best, and we've got to remember we're going to Vietnam next year. I want to say, 2020. So we've already got an extra track on the calendar next year. We've got none of them are dropping off at the end of this year as of yet, but I don't know. I don't know about you two, but I do just prefer them to go to the older circuits. Maybe just, for example, like Malaysia, for example. I'd love for them to
a lot of the time the older circuits have more character to them, sometimes it's hard to manufacture character. You can do, obviously Kota showed that you can manufacture some absolutely banging corners, but it's very rare. Kota had the unique thing.
But it's got character now. 2012 it had no character because it was
Obviously, yeah,
Still
the
new.
first year wasn't because it was so dusty as well, but it's now slowly becoming into one of those I think a classic for F1 drivers. Like they love going there now, and all the corners are really really awesome. But the thing was with Kota, like they had such this big expansive space to like literally dig up. Like they built the turn one hill. Like there was no hill there. They built the hill. So like you can only do that when you have so much space, but a lot of some of the other modern tracks we've had in recent years, they've not had that liberty of being able to dig up and use so much land and push around the land basically to create these
but
really
then again,
awesome corners.
You can't argue that for Silverstone. Silverstone's built on an airfield, for God's sake, and that's still a brilliant track. But I think also with character, and I think this is maybe one of the reasons why Spain has been looked down upon even more by the drivers and fans, is they resurfaced it. And they've ruined it. They've taken a lot of the character and a lot of the bumps and the stuff that made. Obviously, they did the change in the layout back in 2007. I want to say 2006 into 2007.
Yeah.
But they've pretty much removed all the character of Catalonia.
In
which
my
is
opinion, I agree with
sad.
that. The character's gone. But they didn't remove it at the top. They didn't remove that by resurfacing the track. They removed it by putting in that chicane, which was meant to encourage overtaking. And also the turn 10 hairpin, which is where the second sector split lies.
Yeah.
They should go back to taking the old line, which would give them more straight, therefore more overtaking possibility because the straight's longer. And the nature of the corner is you can go side by side through there. It's much more raceable
to do that. Yeah,
exactly. So if they went back to the old, I'd say hairpin at turn 10, and also went back to the old penultimate corner instead of the chicane, which in my opinion just doesn't have a purpose. It just doesn't. I reckon Spain would be, even if there weren't that much overtakes, I think as a track it'd be a lot more respected because of the uniqueness of it. I think back in the day, those final two corners were so unique in the way it was kind of downhill and you're kind of pushing this last two corners of the lap. They're so fast, you want to really go for it. And, if we just had those two corners at current speeds with these F1 cars, I think that'd be absolutely incredible. Like seeing maybe go flat through there would be mental. And I think with Spain, I would like it to stay. I'm aware of the market here in Spain. We're talking about fans here for a minute. There is still a big market here, and I think if you look at the other circuits in the country, in Aragon, Jerez, Valencia, they're not really that tailor-made for F1. They're much more MotoGP circuits, much narrower, not redesigned for following cars. So for me, it'd be a shame to lose Spain at the expense of Zandvoort, which is not going to exactly improve the racing, in my opinion. That's kind of where I stand.
It's just going to be an atmosphere, isn't it?
Exactly. It's just a PR ticket sale. So it's a bit of a shame. I think also with Spain, you can't lose that moment of, oh wow, the European season starts, the upgrades are arriving. You're going to lose that, I think, and it's a bit of a shame. I think if Spain just went back to the old circuit, I think it would stand a much better chance. And on the topic of tracks as well, I wanted to mention, even though we didn't discuss it beforehand as well, a rumor that Malaysia might come back as well. Like you said, we mentioned Malaysia just a minute ago for 2022 potentially as well. So
I'd be happy for that to return.
I'll be happy for that as well.
I wouldn't be too fast. The whole rumor though that we saw, I think about a year ago now, the whole Liberty Media want to have 25 races. It's starting to take shape a bit. You're looking at a South African Grand Prix, you're looking at Vietnam, you're looking at Holland, you're looking at Malaysia returning, Miami. You're looking at it now.
Miami's been scrapped. That's
scrapped?
another bit of news. Yeah, actually, I don't know why I didn't bring this up before the podcast. I can't remember what it was. I think it was last week I saw a bit of news that Miami's pretty much been scrapped because they can't. It's too much disruption for the city, and they're not able to make a good enough race circuit, and just in general, so they've pretty much scrapped it, which is a shame. But I don't like them shoehorning a racetrack into a city.
No, it should be.
Work. It's not Formula E.
I think it should be easy for when it comes to deciding those races. I don't it seemed like Miami always had so much red tape with the governors and who resides over the state of deciding whether it's going to go through. I think you kind of already get a bad vibe that even if it does go through, it's not going to be exactly how the organisers want it to, how F1 wanted it to be. I think it's better, if it just goes easily through. Kota was just a simple, cool, right, that's the area, you build it, and we'll go there eventually once it's done. And then, obviously, putting it into a city circuit. City circuits can be fun, obviously. The spectacle's amazing, and obviously Singapore is it's not exactly an all-time classic, but it has produced some great races sometimes, and some great action moments in F1. But, Miami if you look at the city map of Miami, it's so condensed and so dense that it very much kind of like Cal said, it would kind of be Formula E-esque, which is not exactly what F1's trying to go for.
The problem is, as well, and this is, especially this season, I think Formula E is getting a bit more criticism when it comes to the fact that it's literally turned into a demolition derby now. And as much as us F1 fans and motorsport fans do, we love a manic race, and we spoke about this after Baku, where we were almost disappointed why the race was so boring. But I don't think us as F1 fans, I don't want to see millions of crashes, because this is an expensive sport, and I don't want to see a Williams crashing in every single weekend because the walls are so tight, and then they drop off. Because this is the thing, they could then drop off the participants. They could go into administration because they're literally just crashing into too many walls. It's expensive.
I mean, just
there's
the
a video
racing
that was circling. Did you see the video that was circling about like the cost of each crash? Like
I know the crash, the incident of Baku was a lot. Like, that's a whole chassis.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
Like because they added it up, like the floor and like suspension brakes. It was coming up like each crash was coming over to like £250,000 each crash.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a
mental.
lot. And
if we're going to millions of street circuits,
it's also just the racing. It's just the racecraft itself. Like with Formula E, yeah, it's manic. Yeah, it's like crazy. But also at the same time, a part of me is like, I always get a little bit like, when like every other corner you've got the Formula E cars tapping each other out of the way and kind of pushing each other out. Like in F1, it's kind of cool and like, oh my god, if once in a while like a wild Verstappen or Vettel sends one to the inside and the front two tyres tap and they collide a little bit but they still keep on going. Sometimes really interesting if that happens once every race or once every 2 races. But if it's happening every single Grand Prix where people are just hitting each other, tapping tyres, tapping side pods like they do in Formula E, it just becomes a little bit silly then at that point. It looks comical in a way. And Formula E, I can't lie, it does look comical sometimes. There's some great racing in Formula E, don't get me wrong. But a lot of times it does look comical, especially into hairpins in Formula E, when you can even hear the sound. Because obviously there's no engine sound, so you really hear the clatter and the crunch of like wings hitting end plates and diffusers, and it's a bit weird.
Listen, I'm a bit of a traditionalist, okay? Racing is a non-contact sport, so I struggle to get into Formula E for that particular reason. There's just too much argy-bargy for my liking. And it has its moments, like the last lap at Mexico in the E-Prix this year, which I remember very
Mexico
vividly.
is a great one.
But that was
again
more
traditional
because
circuit,
of the battery running out. Yeah, but that was more because of the battery running out. It was nothing to do with the racing. The fact that the batteries ran out on the last lap for a lot of people, that kind of made the drama. It created itself. For me as well, I think Formula's been getting a few complaints because with these faster cars, it's kind of struggling to make these circuits work like they did with the old previous generation cars. Yeah. And I don't like this direction F1's going in. They seem to have a thing about street circuits at the minute. You know, they're still pushing for the London one. They wanted to go Miami, which would have been another street circuit. Zandvoort's very narrow. Vietnam's a street circuit. They're pushing for these kind of tracks that are not my vibe. I mean, I've seen the Vietnam hot lap, and besides that massive back straight, that track is going to be horrific for overtaking unless the 2021 regs are a miracle work. So I don't really like it that much, and I hope we kind of stick with Spain, and hopefully that stays, Silverstone stays, Zandvoort can somehow become racy, Kyalami, those kind of tracks.
Yeah, generally, like, I'm thinking about it, like, okay, we like the spectacle, you know, we love the good slow-mo of a car brushing a wall, which we saw a lot in Baku, or we see in Monaco, pushing the barriers, pushing the limits, but only a couple of times a season. I like, as well, drivers pushing each other onto the grass, being a bit rough, you know, diving up the inside and skating across the gravel trap. Like, that's also F1 to me, and that's maybe why I don't like Formula E so much, is because there's only the spectacle of racing up against the barriers kind of gets taken away when they do it every single
like when we watch Silverstone. It's epic when they do that panning, the dolly cam shot coming down the straight into left field. It's always great. Like when Vettel made the overtake on Bottas last year, basically, it's just epic when you see basically a big patch of grass either side, left and right, and it's literally like, oh, they're literally racing in like a proper field sort of circuit. And it just, I don't know, it has that vibe, just like it's nice and open, and Vettel just goes for the move, and you see all the crowd, you see all the stands behind and forward. You just get
that's the problem as well.
Space
with street circuits. I see this, and I follow a lot of people on social media who have been going to E-Prix recently, and they're behind just tons of fences. Like at Silverstone,
Yeah, the
you're
views aren't
mostly
great.
above them.
The views aren't
They're all
great.
just behind a fence or a wall, and I'm like, it's not very.
Yeah, after being at
it's
Spa
not very
last
nice.
year and like getting that visual, I don't really fancy being stuck around concrete.
No.
Spa was incredible. Like, it's a visual where you could see.
Let's
Lots
not
of
talk
different
about the
parts
race,
of the track.
but
Yeah, I know. Well, no, but even Silverstone as well. Like Silverstone, you could kind of sit at cops and you would still see like other corners. It's any track really, and it would be the same thing with Hungary, depending on where we sit this year. So, I don't know.
we'll
Me
set the final
personally-
corner so you can see the whole final sector, for example.
Yeah,
You can
true.
see
So
a
I
good
just
good
hope
amount of it.
F1 doesn't. I think a part of me tells me because we had a couple of good races at Baku the last couple of years, they kind of went, okay, that's the kind of formula of track we need, and they're trying to push for that a little bit too much, in my opinion. Hence why the way, like, even the suggested Miami layout looked exactly the same as the Vietnam one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A really weird,
I get you. Yeah.
boxy track with a massive long straight. The Baku formula is what they're looking for, and I really hope they don't get sucked into it. I mean, this year's race proved to be a massive flop, so I don't think that's the way to go. And I think
The
they've
only
been a
good
bit
thing
too
about a
rushy
street
with it.
circuit, high-speed corners, and in fairness to the makers of, it's still Herman Tilke, isn't it, that's still making these circuits. Vietnam, that final sector is mental. It is very, very
It's
quick.
going to be it's a good time trial,
it's-
like one lap,
which
but not
is
racing.
a good spectacle, because I think that's the best part of. This is why I think we all like the third sector, or we'll like to back going into swim pool, like that sort of part of Monaco, for example. That's what we like. So I think again, even Baku, I mean that final sector. I mean, I know it's a straight, but it still looks amazing, seeing the cars go full pelt through there. But yeah, I know what you mean. I think they're looking at these sorts of races and going, yeah, we need a bit more of that. But
Yeah.
and that's why I'm glad that Silverstone stuck its elbows out last year and gave us a brilliant race. It's not necessarily the fact that there's walls. It's sometimes if the pack is a bit closer, so it's not the track sometimes.
Yeah.
Rant over.
Yeah, well, talking about things that are getting scrapped. Q4, that idea of Q4 that we talked about a little bit earlier, I think like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's died a quick death. It's not going to happen. I think all three of us were in the same boat of like, okay, why sort of thing.
Full 0 point.
So yeah, I mean, it's good that it's scrapped. I mean, I didn't really see much point in it. I think Tom made a very good point of like the whole, the issue that they had with the one tiny issue they're having with Q3 at the moment was always going to happen again with Q4 anyway, of the whole splitting up the pack anyway, in terms of like, the Formula A, Formula B, Formula C, D, whatever you want to say with
Formula Williams.
Yeah, Formula Williams, of course. How could I forget?
Yeah,
Formula
exactly.
W then.
Come on.
Yeah,
Right
or
towards the
Formula W. I don't know how much of a W it is, to be honest, but
Yeah, true.
yeah. So it's been scrapped. Just a little bit of a tiny update on that. So we kind of debated it, but yeah, it started a quick death. But I think that moves us swiftly on then to the last bit of this podcast, which is previewing the 2019 Spanish GP. We've talked a lot about it being replaced on the calendar, but let's talk about it in solidity in this year's calendar. Lads, what are we thinking? Like, we talked a little bit about it last podcast because that was inevitable, about what we're expecting, what needs to maybe come from certain teams like Ferrari there at Spain.
I just hope it's a good race.
Yeah.
We kind of need a bit of a good race. After
Yeah,
China
we
and
sort of
Baku.
do after two kind of meh ones.
And I feel like the stars have aligned for it to be, you're going to Spain, one of the most boring races, most predictable ones on the calendar, where everyone's 2x2 on the grid, and it's going to be an absolute banger. I'm saying it now.
Someone clip that. let's bring that back next
Do
episode.
you know how the weather's been a bit odd recently, just generally in Europe? Bearing in mind, as
Yeah.
we speak,
I
the
can testify
WC at
It
Spa
was snowing at Spa.
is snowing. This is May we're talking about here, which is a bit odd. Go climate change.
It rained
I
yesterday here
think
all
we
day.
could do with a slightly soggy Catalonia.
I would not mind a
think
wet race. I think that'll be quite interesting. Yeah.
There'll be our
have
first
some-
wet race of the season, and I think
I have
we
a little
ought
bit of
to
bad
have one,
news.
which is
Is it drying up?
The weather next week is going to be hellacious. We're talking the highest of the year so far.
Oh, bloody hell.
temperature-wise,
Way
which
to
could make
shit
it
on our
interesting
parade.
on
Well,
strategy.
yeah, you know
it
what?
could make it interesting on tyres.
You know
It could
what?
make it interesting.
You
but-
over there, raining when we had great weather last week or whatever it was, and now we're wanting some rain from you, and you say you don't have rain. What's up? That's
No, 'cause you've got it probably. That's why.
I haven't looked at the
right,
weather
it's a
next weekend, but yeah, probably is going to rain here now.
It's
no
bank
doubt.
holiday weekend, so it'll either piss it down or be really sunny. There's one or two alternate
There's no
ways,
between.
really.
But
But
I'll put my neck on the line for predictions in Spain. I'll go for it.
Yeah,
I'm
go
going
on.
to go for a very out there prediction.
Yeah. Okay.
So pole position, Lewis Hamilton.
Okay.
That's my out there one. Are we doing top 3 in the qualifying? Just we stick with the poll.
We'll stick with the poll.
Stick with
Okay,
poll.
I'll send my poll. So you wanna?
I will go Valtteri Bottas for pole.
This is what I'm going to do my predictions on Hope, Sebastian Vettel.
Okay.
I see. I've got no hope left.
Right.
So race. Hamilton
He's
wins.
got nothing left.
Bottas second. I'm gonna go Vettel third, Leclerc fourth.
Wait, what was that? You went one. What was your versus? I missed that. What was your first and second?
Hamilton 1, Bottas 2.
Okay.
Vettel
1, 2,
3.
Merc. Okay, jeez. Okay.
Actually, no, I'll go Leclerc 3, Vettel 4, and Verstappen 5.
Okay.
And then we'll do best of the rest after. I'll let you.
Cal, do you want to go? I'm still sort of thinking a little bit.
See, this is a crucial race for Ferrari, and I'm literally going to quote myself from last podcast. If Ferrari aren't good here, then they're not going to be good for the rest of the season. And this is me being hopeful that Ferrari can actually
put something together.
What the data says, let's hope.
Yeah.
Ferrari can pull it out. So I'm going to say I hope that Vettel wins. We're going to have Leclerc second. That's just slap Hamilton in third. Let's say a Mercedes, or let's say Bottas has a mechanical issue. Let's throw a spanner in the mix. So Verstappen fourth and Gasly fifth.
Okay. I went Bottas pole, so I'm gonna go. Let's see, F1 being F1. I'm just gonna say Hamilton ends up winning it. I'm gonna say Vettel somehow managed to get second, Bottas third. I'm gonna say maybe Bottas doesn't have a very good strategy or something, gets screwed over a little bit by the strategy. Or he just shoots his tyres at the very start. Vettel gets second that way. Leclerc P4, and then I'm going to say Verstappen P5, just logical, I think. I think Verstappen still is the overwhelming, comfortable man there at Red Bull, despite Gasly getting up to pace. But I hope he does have a good race. And speaking about that, best of the rest.
Do we do top 8 or top 10?
Let's do top.
Just do literally the best of the rest.
Best of the rest to like 6 and 7. 6 and 7.
Okay, well, obviously Gasly gets 6th. We're going to put that one out there. I mean, shock.
Yeah, I'm going to say that as well.
I'm hopeful. I'm going to stick Sainz 7th. I think home race, it won't suit McLaren entirely at the circuit, but I think it's still good enough for them. I think that sector 1, that could still work. I think the back straight. I'll put Sainz in 7th, and I'll put Danny Rick in 8th.
I think, because obviously I've had Bottas retiring, so I've already got Gasly up there. Just thinking about it, I'd expect Renault to bounce back. I think I'd have to maybe slap a Ricciardo, and let's see if Haas can bring it back with a Magnussen.
Okay, I'm going to say, obviously, Gasly P6. I'll say P7. I'm going to go for Raikkonen. I think that Alfa Romeo racing car might go well around
that's
Spain.
a shout, you know.
Because they had a lot of good...
really good shout.
They have a lot of good race pace and testing. Maybe,
Oh, shit, no, I'll swap Magnussen for Raikkonen.
Maybe it could translate over. So that's my P7, P8. I'm gonna go with Sainz. I think like Tom said, maybe the home fans bring a bit of strength, and I think that McLaren car, to be fair to it, has been looking pretty solid actually. So I'm gonna have a tiny bit of faith in them, but easily that could be, I think, for me like a Haas or even Racing Point really. I don't think Renault are gonna bounce back that well. I think Renault will bounce back to maybe just fighting for the last points, but. Yeah, that's my prediction. So we've got a little bit of a difference there outside of the top 5, and even top 5 was a little bit mixed up for us three, and the polls certainly were as well. So knowing us, one of us has got it completely right, and the other two absolutely wrong. So let's just wait and see.
All three of us have got it wrong, and Norris is going to stick it on pole.
Yeah, exactly. Norris, you know what? Russell's that Williams car, the upgrades they're going to bring. Oh my, that's when the joke I made early in the season about them sandbagging is finally going to come into fruition. They're going to take the sandbags off at Spain, and you guys will see. But we'll have to wait and see, and we'll bring you an instant race reaction for that one, for the Spanish GP, when that weekend comes, guys. But if you did enjoy this podcast, then be sure to hit that like button. Let us know anything you thought about in that comment below. Definitely also the Spain v Zandvoort sort of thing. That's definitely a thing where your comments might be very interesting to see of how many people are really in favour of Zandvoort or not, and who wants Spain to be replaced, because that was quite a big debate between us three in terms of difference of opinion, maybe a little bit. But obviously, if you do like what we do around here, you can listen to us on the go, as is shown on screen all the time with Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Numbers been great. So again, thank you very much for those guys. And if you do want to support us directly, you can check us out on Patreon, or also you can check out GT Omega and use the code PitlaneF1 at checkout, and that will have a direct kickback towards us. But guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.